Yeah. Okay. All right. I think we should just get started then. You ready, Gordon?
Fantastic. Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's get started. You ready to talk some whiskey?
Yeah, great to be virtually back in Taiwan.
对，谢谢大家今天参加我们的直播活动。然后我们今天的那个邀请了那个格兰哥尼的国际品牌大使 Gordon Dundas. Yeah, we have Gordon today, and from he's a global brand ambassador, international brand ambassador for Glengoyne, right?
That's right, absolutely.
Yeah. And you're calling in from Scotland over there. I can see it's daytime over there.
It's 2 p.m. in the afternoon. It's not a bad day. It's not Taiwan weather. I believe it's very hot in Taiwan, but it's a nice day in Scotland. Yeah.
Yeah. 那边天气比较好，这边有点热。对 ，Yeah, it's a little hot here. Actually, it is a little bit hot here. Yeah. So let's start with introductions. 我们来先自我介绍一下，然后呢，我个人是那个 Alex. I'm Alex, whiskey steward, also head of the Taiwan Whiskey Society. And then, so this is for, my friends back home in Philadelphia, where I'm from, and also for my Taiwan friends. And 我们今天就是有直播美国那边、苏格兰这边跟台湾这边，然后我们现在就是我是那个台中威士忌同好会的会长 Alex， 然后呢。我们今天很荣幸，就是有 Gordon 参与我们这个活动。Very, very honored to have you, Gordon. Why don't you tell us a little about yourself and tell us, how you got to where you are today, and you tell us your journey, my friend.
Crikey. Well, I mean, I don't want to bore people, but I mean, I've been in the whiskey industry since pretty much about 2003, 2004. So
2003年 Don't mind me. I'm just going to kind of cut. I'm just going to interject every now and then with some.
No, I'll stop every 3 or 4 sentences. But yeah, in 2003, 2004,
yeah,
I used to work for Whiskey Magazine, and then after that, I worked for Bowmore, and then Beam Suntory, and now Ian McLeod.
Okay. 然后他之前就是在那个 Whiskey Magazine 工作，然后Bowmore, and then you said Whiskey Magazine, Bowmore, and then
Beam Suntory.
Oh, Beam Suntory, 三得利精兵
and then finally Ian McLeod.
然后现在 Ian McLeod 就是那个哥尼跟淡都 Tamdo Glengoyne Tamdo 那个总公司 Smokehead, yep, 然后 Smokehead.
Yeah.
And you used to live in Taiwan.
I did. So in 2014 I lived in Taipei, but spent a lot of time in Kaohsiung and Taichung and on the high speed rail. But I lived there when I was working for Bowmore.
Okay.
2014, representing Bowmore, Auchentoshan, and Glengarry.
Okay. 所以 他之前就住在台北，然后呢，就是他在三得利工作的时候就在这边，在台湾这边、台北这边到处跑。And you are the brand ambassador there. Here as well, right? For Beam Suntory.
Yeah. I mean, I was covering the whole of Asia, so from from India to Japan to Australia. It was a busy time. It was a good year.
亚洲的这个三得利亚洲的品牌大使。Yeah. Okay. So you. Okay. I didn't even know I didn't know Beam Suntory had a brand ambassador here in Taiwan. Even.
Well, it was Morrison Bowmore at that point. It just become Beam Suntory. Beam Suntory. Quite different now, but yeah. So yeah.
Gotcha.
So I worked quite closely. For example, Bowmore was with drinks.
Yeah. 橡木桶，对，之前在橡木有代理橡木桶的代理。然后 and then how long have you been with Glengoyne now?
3 years in August.
Okay. 所以他现在在那个哥尼这边已经3年了。Yeah, 3 years in August. Okay. Oh, okay. It's coming up.
Time flies. And yeah, my remit is mainly, a couple of countries in Europe, a bit of UK, America, and Taiwan, China.
When's the last time you were in Taiwan?
November, I think it was.
Oh, really? You're here?
Taiwan in November for about a week of activity with my colleague Tom Russell, who is based out in Taiwan. He lives in Taipei. He's our man in Taiwan. So I was speaking to Tom earlier today. So yes, and he might even be listening if he's got nothing. If he's not got anything else to do. I mean, he's probably at home listening. So.
OK， 所以我们的朋友 Tom 是那个哥尼 ，so he's he's 负责人这边的负责人嘛，然后 he's responsible for Glengoyne here in Taiwan. Our friend Tom here.
Yeah, he is. Yeah, all of our brands actually. So yeah.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I usually just start with kind of like the background of Glengoyne or the distillery, and tell us about like the background, the history, how it all began. 我们来讨论一下这个格尼的这个历史。
It's one of those amazing things in terms of Glengoyne. It's not a big distillery; it never has been. But one of the things that's very striking is its location in terms of being literally just in the Highlands. The distillery sits just in the Highlands. You cross the road into the warehousing, you're in the lowlands.
Okay.
It makes no difference.
The distillery, 然后他们的这些仓库跟酒窖就在那个低地的区块 ，right? Yeah. So it's warehouses in the lowlands and then the distillery in the highlands.
Yeah, I mean, it makes no difference, but it's a really I think it's the only distillery that spans two regions. So it's quite an interesting story, but obviously it is a Highland whiskey. Originally called Burnfoot, it was a farm.
Burnfoot,
yeah. That's what, and then it was changed to Glengoyne in the late 1800s. Very different, numerous ownerships. But I think what was really interesting, there's two main points that stand out. Was in the late 1800s, Cochrane Cartwright really understood sherry casks and understood the slow distillation. Yeah. So he sort of set Glengoyne on its way. And then when it was owned by what is Edrington now, in the 1960s and 70s, they added a second still, a spirit still, to add more copper contact. So that really sets the precedent of how Glengoyne is made. Is the style, the real slow distillation, which gives us a fruity whiskey. Obviously non-fruity.
And you mentioned the name Cochrane
Cartwright.
Cochrane Cartwright. Tell us about him again.
So he was a distillery manager. He is the feature. He is the main person behind the Legacy Chapter 1. Okay. He's the person that we celebrate in that because he understood. He brought in sherry casks and he understood the importance of them in the 1800s, late 1800s, and the availability of them from the docks. And he understood that if you don't heat your stills up too quickly, you can get a very different style of whiskey, style of spirit.
所以这个 Cochrane Cartwright 这个他是那时候的 he was the master distiller, I guess, or
yeah, he was back then. Distillery manager, yeah,
distillery manager 就是那个酒厂的，算是首席蒸馏师吧。然后他那个时候是 do you remember like what years was he there? Like
I think about 1870s, 1880s, something like that.
1870、1880年代有一个 Cochrane Cartwright， 然后他就是算是建立这个什么是格兰哥尼的这个酒厂精神，那就是慢速蒸馏 ，so slow distillation. So that's almost kind of like become like the mantra of the Glengoyne name, right? Ever since that happened.
Yeah, I mean it's something which we're very aware of. We only produce 1 million liters of alcohol a year, and just to put that into context, Glenlivet can produce 21 million liters of alcohol a year.
21 million.
Yeah, we're 1 million, so we're very small. But what we do focus on is we could produce 1.25 million if we heated the stills up faster, but we don't. We create a long spirit run. We heat up to the boiling point of alcohol. It's all about the quality of the spirit and then the casks. That's how you make great whiskey. Full stop.
Yeah. 那所以像哥尼它的这个一年的产量大概是100万。Oh, yeah, there you go. We got the same one here. There you go. 一年的产量大概100万。那就是相对像说 You said Glenlivet was 21 million. Was that they have that big of a capacity? Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's big. Yeah, I think it's about 21 million.
OK， 那个他说那个利威大概一年有算是21 million， 那这就是2100万嘛，对不对？
But that's what makes Glengoyne a different Glen. We are a different Glen to them.
Yeah.
We just do things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
Beautiful whiskey, the 12.
Yeah, beautiful whiskey. 然后他就说是慢速蒸馏，然后他们就是很重视他们的这个雪莉桶。So you know the sherry cask is very important to you guys, right?
It is.
Yeah.
But actually, the 12-year-old is the only whiskey that we use any first fill bourbon casks.
Okay. It's actually, you can actually see it here. Lemon zest, toffee apples, and the scent of coconut. Our signature sherry wood brings intensely, while the bourbon cask adds fresh notes of citrus and vanilla. So this one's like a strong tone. But then the other Glengoyne expressions, it's not all 100% sherry cask, right? Or is it just kind of finished or matured?
We use refill as well, which can be a combination of, ex bourbon, ex American oak, ex European oak. So our 10-year-old, the big difference between the 10-year-old and the 12 is the 10-year-old's 30% first fill sherry casks, both European and American oak in that 10-year-old, and then 70% refill.
Okay, go ahead.
Here, 20% first fill bourbon, 20% European oak first fill Oloroso sherry, and 60% refill.
Sherry.
No, refill can be anything. Refill can be.
So 12 years, 60% refill casks, and then you have first fill bourbon and first fill sherry.
All married together after 12 years.
Okay. 所以大概是它这款它也会用一些就是新的美国波本桶，然后一些新的欧洲雪莉桶。And then so you said this is the only one that uses the
first fill bourbon.
First fill bourbon.
The 15-year-old, which we used to have, did as well, but we don't produce that currently.
Yeah, the 15-year-old, the 15-year-old you do have, and actually I have here.
Yeah.
Actually, I have quite a few today, so because
I know you do. You have a lot.
It's nighttime for me.
I know. That's great.
So I'm going to maybe I'm going to make this a little bigger. So we're gonna go through some of these here. We got the 12-year, we got the 15-year. Unfortunately, is discontinued. 15年是已经停产了，可惜。Yeah, unfortunately. And I have an old one here. See this? I got a 12-year cask strength.
Yeah, that could have been along with the other cask strength that you've got. I think they're both Taiwan exclusives.
Okay.
That is a Taiwan exclusive from 2 years ago.
Okay. So that
is a Taiwan exclusive and is very similar. That is effectively cask strength 12-year-old, the same cask makeup, pretty much.
This is cool. 这个还不错，这是我们算是他说是我们的这个台湾。只有台湾有的12年. So this is cool. It's only available in Taiwan. 12-year cask strength. So we see the Glengoyne cask strength out there, but it's not age stated, right?
Correct. And we're on batch number 7 of that. But that's batch number 1 of that. That's a one-off Taiwan exclusive. And then the Legacy Series Chapter 1, which is we celebrate, and there'll be a Chapter 2, but that celebrates Cochrane Cartwright. No age statement, but lots of European oak first fill sherry.
所以这个就是在算是庆祝这个 Cochrane Cartwright 他们原本的那个首席制酒师，首席蒸馏师，然后呢，这个就是他的算是一个纪念酒款 ，Yeah. And I also have this, if you can see, the old Glengoyne 21-year-old. You got that one too?
I have the new one.
Oh, you got the new one? Okay.
We could compare it. I'm sure it'll be very similar.
So this is fun. So we also have a friend, so people are asking about a couple questions here. Our friend Tatsuya Ishihara from Japan. Hello. And then he says how slow is the process, right? So you're talking about a slow distillation process, so tell us typically how long does a distillery, how fast, for example, if you pushed your production to 1.2 million, like you said, and you squeezed out that extra, 0.2 million, and now the 1 million, like what would be the difference? Just let me phrase this question in Mandarin now too.
Yeah.
所以我们这边日本的朋友说，就是说因为他们说是慢速蒸馏，那如果慢速蒸馏的话呢，到底是多慢呢？那刚刚那个 Gordon 有说，他们现在一年的这个产量是大概100万那个公升，那他们如果是就是快速蒸馏一点呢，或许可以产120万的这个公升的酒。那我刚刚问他问题就是说，120万跟100万这样子差，这样子20万的这个公升的酒，那个时间的差别是什么 ？What is the difference between that, that extra 200,000 caps?
Well, I mean, it's basically about flow rate. So what I mean by that is you can't compare distilleries with distilleries because they all have different sizes of everything.
Yeah.
It's about the flow rate, and at the moment we're about 5 liters a minute in terms of if you look at our spirit safe. And we all look at, when you visit a distillery, you see the spirit safe, you see the spirit coming out. Ours effectively trickles out pretty slowly because we're holding the temperatures at 78, 79 degrees, close to the boiling point of alcohol, so that we allow lots of copper contact through the 2 spirit stills. We split the low wines, the second still charge into 2 spirit stills. So we get lots of copper contact, and then in the condensers, we get these beautiful esters, fruity esters coming through. If we heated them up faster, heavier vapors would go over the line arm and you'd have a very different spirit. So that is the focus. And if you think of bourbon, one of the major influences in bourbon is the temperatures of distillation and obviously, mash bills and things like that. But, temperature is actually really important in how you heat up the stills. And at Glengoyne, it's always been done really slowly, which is my point. If we heated up quicker and collected our run over 3 to 4 hours rather than 5 to 6, we could produce a lot more. But the whiskey spirit would not be the same. So your 10-year-old in 10 years' time or 12, it would not taste the same.
Yeah, absolutely. You said what was the flow rate again? It was 5 liters per.
About 5 liters per minute, and really a lot. Other distilleries come out a lot faster than that.
Right,
but that every distillery does what works for them. So for Glengoyne, that's how we've done it. It's how we will do it. It's like we'll never do a peated whiskey expression either.
And you said you keep it roughly around at the 78 to what's the range?
Yeah. Well, the boiling point of alcohol is 78.3 degrees centigrade.
Yeah.
So we're not we might heat it up a little bit above that, but it's not gonna go way above that. Sometimes, some depending on what you're trying to produce or whatever, sometimes the temperatures will go up quite a lot quicker, and you'll get a very different way in which it evaporates and reacts with the still. That's what we're focusing on.
那所以 Gordon 他说 so Tatsuya, I think you heard that, right? So the flow rate, we're talking about the flow rate. 那刚 Gordon 就是说 flow rate 这个东西呢，就是说就是新酒流出来的速度，从那个蒸馏器流出来的速度大概5公升，大概每1分钟大概5公升。那他们算是慢速蒸馏，他们就是维持在大概78到80几这样子的，这个也不会太高。那它就是维持在那个温度，然后在那边蒸馏，慢慢的蒸馏，然后流出来的新酒大概5公升。And I'm curious, because when you say something like that, when you say something about 5 liters per minute, I wonder if have you ever looked at records, like in terms of when did they, the 5 liters per minute thing, has that been like that for the last 100 years or the past 10 years?
Well, I mean, it's certainly been in the recent, in the recent past. That's since we've owned it. We took on board when we bought the distillery. We took on board all the things that had gone before. The reason we bought the distillery, it made great whiskey. So we didn't come in and go, right, we're changing everything. That's not what you do when you buy a distillery. You take on board the talent and knowledge that's there, and they say, well, this is how we do it, and this is how we'll continue to do it, and that's exactly what we did. And so that was obviously what was going on before. So you know, understanding that if you're adding a second, if you're double distilled, but you have 3 stills and you have 2 spirit stills, why do you have 2 spirit stills?
Yeah.
Why have you done that? Why would you not just have a bigger spirit still? Yeah. Because you're trying to do something specific to the spirit that gives you more copper contact, gives you more reflux, gives you the ability to move that vapor through the still in a different way. And that's the key point.
Yeah, so you have 2 spirit stills and one
wash still.
One wash still and two spirit stills. Okay.
Yeah, gotcha. But still double distilled. So as I said, it just gets split into 2. Yeah, 3,500 liters in each.
And when did Ian Club buy Glengoyne again?
2003.
Okay, and before it was Edrington, right? Yeah.
It was Edrington before then. So the other thing that became really relevant when we bought Glengoyne was, and we know Edrington's history with sherry casks, was sherry casks were at the core of Glengoyne. There was a 10, a 17, and a 21-year-old. We've added new whiskies, but we totally understood that, again, to do that, we needed to continue on with sherry casks.
Yeah. 那他们的这个 EM Club 集团是2003年从爱丁顿那边收购这个格兰哥尼这个酒厂，然后他们就说他们的其中另外一个是比较特殊的地方，就是说他们有三个蒸馏器，但是他们其中2个就是他们的酒精蒸馏器，那所以他们就是他们的麦汁蒸馏器，他们的这个 wash still。然后蒸馏出来，然后就会分2批次，两个蒸馏器去慢速蒸馏。他们当然是就是比较有效率，就是你有一个就是买一个更大的一个蒸馏器，然后同时然后就是这样子一次去蒸馏。但是他们为了要维持他们的这个算是酒厂风格，他们就是还是决定说不要买大的蒸馏器，然后就是買2個就是多加1個小的蒸馏器，然後兩個小蒸馏器同時去慢速蒸馏。Yeah, so that so obviously it's keeping to tradition, you know, and especially it's especially the fact that you guys have 2 spirit stills versus just the efficient way or the I guess the shortcut way. Right, we just have a bigger one still, and then because 2 stills, you have to 2 batches. It's 2 times the work.
Well, I mean, it gets split off automatically, but it's you're heating 2 stills rather than 1.
Right, and that's a credit to you guys.
There's a lot of different things that you do with 2 stills in the so it gets split off and combined back in again, but you've got the 2 condensers, all these things make a really big difference, and people forget even how important condensers are in the influence on spirit, and these condensers have a huge influence in terms of copper contact. So I mean, it's a bit like if you've got a Ferrari, or why would you drive it in 2nd gear? It's sort of the antithesis of that. The point is, there's been a specific reason why that still was put in, and then why would you not make the spirit the best possible way you could through that still setup? And that's the key point.
对啊，所以这是他们的酒厂的坚持，所以他们其实不是要求的是快速或是就是更有效，他们想要维持他们的这个传统的蒸馏的技巧。Tom is chimes in here. Tom Russell, hello, Gordon.
Tom.
Okay, do you see that?
Yes, Tom's joined. Hello, Tom.
Okay, great.
I was on a call with him this morning. Good to see you.
Well, so Tatsuya, has another question. It says, what about the middle cut? So what about your hearts cut? So you have some distilleries talk about like, oh, hey, we only take like 20% or 10% or like I don't know, some crazy number, right?
Yeah.
Is that like part of the story here? Is that
I mean, our
that point does.
Our spirit run is very long because of the flow rate I spoke about. Yeah. And we collect it over a long period of time, 5 hours plus. Now.
5個小時以上的取酒。
So that means that the stills are working longer, which means that it takes longer for the next batch to come in. The faint run, everything takes longer. So our spirit strength's about 72, 71 ABV. Everything that is really, our 4-shot is really short. So our 4-shot run is very short. And it probably disappears after a few minutes. I mean, it's really, really short because of how we've just been speaking about it. And then we collect down to the faints. I can't remember the exact figure, probably somewhere in the region of the low 60s, something like that. And then it runs into the faints, of course. So, that's a 5-hour process. Not every distillery collects for 5 hours. So, so that's why, as I call it, we're beautifully inefficient. We're not we're trying to create a great whiskey, which in its nature takes time at every aspect of making it, from maturation to all that sort of, distilling, heating up, things like that. And it's one of those things that I always say to somebody, if you're making soup at home and you boil the soup rather than just simmer it, it doesn't taste as good.
Yeah, I think that's good analogy. 他刚刚说就是你在煮汤，应该就是说要熬汤，然后不是就是快速的煮汤，那当然是会有不一样的这个效果。那所以他们取酒精的这个时间呢，其实也是还蛮久的。他们取酒精的时段是大概5个小时。The 5 hours on the hard cuts, right? You said 5 hours.
About that, yeah, approximately,
yeah. 然后他们说，还有这些酒头的部分呢，其实是算是还蛮少的。然后呢，但是整个取酒时间大概要5个多小时。对，对 ，yeah. So you also, probably, so when you're slow distillation, you're also keeping a lot of the the flavor. Well, actually, I'll let you explain. So, slow distillation, like how does that affect, that essentially like the viscosity or like the whiskey itself, like, how does that translate, like slow distillation, right?
Well,
how does it taste the way it tastes?
It manifests itself in a few different ways.
Yeah.
Let's just be very clear. The first thing that we do to go on that route, there's a lot of routes you got to go for. So firstly, the first thing we do is we create a clear wort after mashing. So the wort is clear. That's your first step to go on to a fruity spirit, is a clear wort. Not every distillery does it.
Pause. 我刚问的问题就是说，那他们这样子慢速蒸馏跟他们制酒的这些技巧呢，他们是怎么样？他这样子的做法是怎么会在威士忌中这样子呈现他们这样子的做法？那它是怎么样会影响威士忌这个酒体啊等等的？他们第一个步骤，他们是用 clear wort 就是比较清澈的这个麦汁呀。And tell us about the clear wort. That's okay. That's the first step. And then so tell us what does clear wort mean for the distillery.
Well, clear wort is when you mash. Basically, what happens is that you filter the wort through the husks, the remainder of the grist, which collects a lot of the sediment, which gives you a clearer wort that you can then use in fermentation. That is the first step to potentially producing a fruitier spirit. Not every distillery does that because that's not what they're after, but we always produce a clear wort. So when I worked for Suntory were very, very aware of this, and they produced at Yamazaki and some of their distilleries clear and not clear worts, cloudy and clear, so they could produce different styles of spirits. So it just explains the first thing about producing. It starts with mashing. Then you've got fermentation. We know that that's a big point in terms of the fruitiness or the style of a whiskey, is the fermentation and the yeast that's used. And then finally, distillation is the real driver of a distillery style.
Yeah, I'm actually trying to crack into this, and this it's being a little difficult here. Do you want to get, so while we talk, why don't we pour a little bit of the 12 year, huh?
Yeah, I've been nosing it already. I'm loving it. And
it's 我们现在开始喝一点吧。然后呢，如果大家家里有这个 哥尼的话，可以就是同步跟我们一起同步品饮。Tatsuya actually I guess is one of your from Japan. Our friend here is actually one of your super fans. He says he loves the distillery so much. You know, he visited the distillery for his honeymoon.
Good man. Well, that's great to Tatsuya. I wish you the best, all the best in Japan, and we'll see you at Glengoyne soon. Keep in touch. I'm sure you keep in touch with us.
Yeah. Tatsuya, does your wife drink whiskey too? I mean, what did she think of going to the distillery for honeymoon?
I'm sure she loved it. It's an amazing experience.
Loved it. So 那他刚刚就说那个他的那个麦汁算是清澈，那麦汁它的这个对酒的效果是什么？其实他刚刚那个过人就说，麦汁如果清澈的话呢，同时也是会比较水果，there's like a little more clear wort usually equates to like fruity,
the fruitier style of whiskey,
fruity, floral, On the reverse side, right? If a distillery decides to use cloudy wort, right? You mentioned, then it's more kind of like malty and more like biscuity, right?
Could be absolutely. I mean, it's ultimately depending on what you're trying to produce. So if you're trying to produce a whiskey which is, let's face it, let's take peated whiskies for an example. If you're creating a heavily peated whiskey and you nose your heavily peated whiskey, the first thing you pick up is that peat note, that smoke note, so their ambition to create a spirit that's different is really, really important, because it's, the peat is so dominant in the whiskey at the end. So, it's how that then interacts over the time. But at Glengoyne, we've been focused on fruitiness, focused on delivering a really fruity spirit. And it starts with the wort and finishes with distillation. And everything in between is geared up to delivering that fruitiness. So Oregon pine washbacks. Which, there's an argument whether stainless steel or Oregon pine is the best. Ultimately, it comes down to your cleaning regime, how you control bacteria. That is the key thing about the washbacks. And then distillation. People talk about spirit shapes and talk about all the things but actually, temperatures are really important in relation to alcohol boiling point.
I'm actually going to pull up some of these pictures you sent me too.
Well, I actually sent an image, what's the word, a moving, which explains what I'm talking about, which was it's a GIF, or it's an animation which explains the distillation.
Okay, there we go. Should we watch that then?
Yeah, well, it's not. Yeah, absolutely. I can talk you through it if you like, and then you could.
Okay.
Yeah, if you can do that.
Let me. 我们这边他刚有传给我一个影片。Tatsuya also said that he did the blending. So the wife loves the whiskey, and he did the blending with Elizabeth.
Good one. Oh yeah, good. Yeah. That's a great thing to come and do. Make your own single malt. Brilliant.
Yeah, 我们的日本朋友这边他的度蜜月的时候去参观那个哥尼的酒厂，所以他是他们的超级粉丝。哇，度蜜月也可以去酒厂，超棒的。All right, let me make sure I got the video here. Okay.
See if it works.
Yeah, I'm trying to.
It's beautifully simple as a way of showing it. Oh, there we go. Yeah. So that's it.
That's it. Okay.
So you can play that. I will talk you through it. So you can see here what we're saying is we're heating the still, as you can see at the bottom, to 78 degrees C. You see the vapors coming up. They hit that center sort of buffer. That is heavy. The heavier ones going back down, the lighter vapors going up. Those lighter vapors, very few of them. You can see not many of them moving along the line arm.
清澈的酒精这样子流上来的。
And you can see that then in that condenser, up comes the fruity esters that is what Glengoyne is famous for, in the base of every single malt that we produce. And that is why the temperature is so important.
Yeah, I like the fruits there, the bananas and the apples there. It turns into
yeah, that's a really important part of it. And if we speeded it up and heated quicker, we wouldn't get the same fruitiness.
Yeah, so that's a good one up there. Yeah,
you run it again. It's good to watch. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there's a washback. The washbacks. It's still. And then you guys also have a boil bulb right here.
Yeah, so that's really important.
Reflux.
Yeah, sending those heavy vapors back down, because all the vapors go up the outside. It's like if you cut a kettle in half when it boils, it does the same. So they'll come back down, they'll get forced back down, and they'll ultimately be lighter. And then they go over the line arm into the condenser, and your fruitiness personified, which is when you taste the Glengoyne New Make Spirit, it's sweet, it's fruity, it's quite light, it's not very oily. Whereas if you have stills which are very different shapes, they can be oilier, they can be fatter, shorter, more oily spirits.
他们所以慢速蒸馏其实也就是会造成更多的回流。那回流呢，就是一些比较轻的跟比较重酒精，它会就重的酒精就会维持在蒸馏器里面，然后它们那些比较轻的酒精就会往上继续走。那同对化也会增加。那同对化 the carbon interaction, right? So you're talking about carbon interaction, also cleaning up the spirits. 同对化也会让酒这个新酒也会变得比较清澈。那他们你看到最后这边就看到它的这些酒精变成像水果一样子，有没有？I'm gonna get a close up of this. It looks like you got some bananas and pears and apples here.
Bananas, pears, and apples. That picture just sums up Glengoyne. Yeah, it's really, really important.
梨子跟那个苹果，对 ，yeah. Okay, so that's your distillery character, right? And then it's so that kind of answers the question, right? So the slow distillation and whatnot really creates this fruity estery, 就是这种
fruity estery spirit. It's quite light. It's not oily. It's quite sweet. It's very drinkable as a spirit. So that's the essence of every Glengoyne, and that's why we do it the way we do. That's why we heat our stills up the way we do. That's why we have 3 stills. That it's all driven to developing those pears, apples, and bananas.
Yeah, and let's see, pears, apples, bananas right here.
Well, there's definitely, this whiskey's beautiful because I get a creamy vanilla, but it's like there's almost a sort of banoffee pie element to this as well. There's banana in there, but I get a creamy vanilla, and then you do get a zestiness. But I've had this poured in a glass now for 20 minutes, and the fruitiness just coming through is quite sensational. And yeah, there's the stills that if you show us the stills, that's a great one to look at.
Yeah, and then so because perfect, because somebody just asked about the stills here.
Yeah.
Belinda says, being that you are using 2 stills, are the line arms aligned the same? Let's take a look, huh? 那 Belinda 刚刚问你一个问题，就是说这个蒸馏器，虽然因为他们是用2个这个酒精蒸馏器 spirit still， 他们的那个零恩倍是不是一样？ So pretty much I can see the identical spirit stills here, right?
Yeah. So now for those who want a top tip when they're looking at pictures of stills, that's a spirit still. The one on the right is a spirit still. The one in the far distance is the wash still. And if you're unsure when you're at a distillery about which is the wash still, which is a spirit still, look for windows. Little windows on it will tell you it's the wash still.
Yeah. 所以就是有窗口的那个就是他们的这个 wash still. Yeah. 这个麦子算是9支蒸馏器。And tell us what, so I'll let you do this. So tell us why there are windows there.
So the window, the problem when you're distilling the first distillation is you're distilling a beer, so you get a lot of froth, basically. So you need to play the temperature. You do not want any of that froth going over the line arm into your condenser, because that is torture. That is bad. Your condenser will not be in very good shape. So that's about effectively monitoring the froth level of your still in the first distillation. So they're sight glasses so that you can see where your froth is, basically.
Yeah. 所以就是有那个窗口呢，就是因为他们是在蒸馏这个麦汁酒，这个酒汁嘛。那酒汁它其实就是你在加热的时候，它就会开始有泡沫的状况嘛，它就会开始煮起来。那个窗口就是让他们可以观察说，不要就是那些煮起来那些应该算是泡吧，泡沫嘛，不要就是跑太高，所以就是有一个窗口。但是你在蒸馏酒精的话，就不会有这种起泡的这个问題。Okay, my wife's on here. She says the cute animation on the on that
yeah, it's very well done, very well done. And the other thing, just another little idiosyncrasy. See the pipes running along the back wall? They're all copper too.
Oh, okay. So wow. Okay. So
all the pipes running all the new make spirit to the spirit safe and everything, all copper.
Oh wow. Okay, that's quite a bit of money to do that. Yeah.
And that's my point. And that you wouldn't do that if you weren't focusing on a fruity spirit. You just wouldn't bother doing that.
Yeah.
But if it's just you would never change it back the other way. So, that just shows you how important it is to everybody that's worked at Glengoyne over the last 50, 60 years, however long. So,
yeah. 所以我们可以，他刚过人也是说，我们可以看到说，他们其实所有这些水管，他们这些管子，它全部都也是铜制的管子。那这样子也是，其实就是增加这个铜兑化嘛。那就是何况是他们就是要排酒汁啊，或是麦汁啊等等这些东西，他们也是用这些铜管。那铜管其实算是也是比较贵嘛。如果你铜管跟不锈钢管相对比起来，当然就是比较贵，对。然后，但是它也是，就是他们的目标了。他目标就是要制造一个很干净、很清澈、很水果的一个酒款。Yeah, that's actually that's a very very cool point there. And
that gentleman in the picture, Duncan McNichol,
which one?
Has been at the distillery for 43 years and retired in January. That man there. Right here? Yep. 43 years at Glengoyne, making Glengoyne. So he would be able to tell you a bit about over the years how he's looked after the temperatures and understood the long distillation. So
这位先生他在那边工作了43年 ，43 years, huh? Yeah. All right. Well, I want to go through this, but I wanted to go and take a look at this because you did mention the Oregon Pine washbacks here.
Yeah.
那这个是 美国 Oregon 项目的这个washback. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead.
So they're basically we have 6 of those, and effectively what we're doing with those is they're 19,000 liters each, and we've got a fermentation of about 56 hours.
9,000公升的这个 Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, the key thing about Oregon Pine is, again, it's a more expensive way of doing it. Stainless steel is going to last longer, but it's the way it's always been done. Now, does the Oregon Pine washback have a huge influence on flavor in itself? No. But the one thing where it will have a difference is, as I mentioned earlier, it's much easier to clean stainless steel. Yeah. Oregon Pine is different, and it's all about something called lactobacillus, and it's all about how much of that is present that determines quite a lot of fermentation. And that's the point about Oregon Pine, is what your cleaning regime is really important. In terms of a straight influence between stainless steel and Oregon Pine on a spirit, negligible. Your cleaning will influence how it does impact, if anything.
过来他就是说这个木头，那大部分很多酒厂他们都是用像说不锈钢啊的这种 washback 啊，然后但是他们就是坚持他们是用木头的，然后那他们也是当然也是要清理干净，对， 那他们也是会他们就是还是会，当然是会去把它保持干净，然后整理清理啊等等的。But but something about Orton Pine also, there's obviously that there's living organisms, in the distillery, in the wood, that's going to be indigenous there, natural yeast, natural bacteria, and they all play a part to making Glengoyne unique, right? And
there's a huge element of that, yeah. But I mean, my point is, if you've got something in there for 56 hours and you've got yeast in there and it's activating, and the impact of the vessel is minimal, really. But the long-term point is your cleaning regime of your wash your wash backs is really, really important in terms of, cleaning stainless steel pretty easy because it's stainless steel. Cleaning these is a little bit different because there's nooks and crevices and things like that, and that's the point. It's all about bacteria levels.
Yeah. And then, so you did mention it's only about 50 hours. Is that how?
56.
56. Okay.
56 hours or so, which is it suits us. It's what we want. They might be longer over the weekends depending on shifts and things like that. But 56 hours, and you're up to 8.5% of alcohol. You've gone through the yeast cycle. You've developed your CO2. You've developed your alcohol. You're good to go. And so then the charge into the wash still is 12,500 liters.
Okay, 12,000 liters. 12,000公升 from the wash bag into the still, right?
Yeah.
好，那他刚刚说那个发酵的时间大概是56个小时，56个小时。其实so 56, 56 I think is typical. Did you guys ever experiment or take it out to like, I don't know, 60 or 70 hours?
Well, I think for the yeast that we're using at the moment, and a whole range of other aspects like the barley, all these kind of things, that combination works well. That doesn't mean to say that things won't change maybe, but at the moment that's the combination which has worked really well for us. So when your yeast is done, it's done. It's sort of run its cycle. But depending on you're always looking at different things, but the quality of the spirit we're producing at the moment is as good as it's ever been. The one thing that's noticeable at the moment is that, and Robbie will tell you this, is that the barley yields. So the yield of the barley that we're getting at the moment was down quite a lot. I think it's a little bit better now, just because of the weather and the style of barley and the nitrogen, etc.
So the starch, you got the sugar yield.
Yeah. No. So ultimately, how distilleries work is, that you ultimately, how many liters of pure alcohol are you producing per ton of barley?
Yeah.
So if every mash, we put 3.9 tons in. So we will be looking for that. 3.9 tons. We'll be looking for a yield of generally above 400 liters of pure alcohol per ton of barley.
大概每一个 ton 有400 liters, right? 400公升。
400 liters of pure alcohol at 100%.
Yeah, 100% alcohol. Yeah.
108. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Per ton of barley. If you're getting down to, if Robbie's not getting, and it doesn't sound a lot, but if you're making 415, and that's good. If you're making 420, that's exceptional. If you're under 400, something's not right.
Yeah.
That's the point. And so we've been, when we had bad weather, the quality of barley dipped a little bit, and you notice that the yield goes down. And that was across the industry. That just wasn't us.
Yeah. 所以他刚刚就是说，像说大麦，其实他们如果是大麦的这个品质或许不好啊，或是他们的这个能够制造出来的这些酒精，如果大麦品质或是大麦有问题的话呢，那酒精当然就是比较少。但是他们的目标都是大概每一个碳就有400公升的酒精出来。那如果低于400公斤，他们就知道说是有出了问题。 Then, you know, and you mentioned something about the yeast, right? So with the yeast, are you guys just using regular distiller's yeast, or
we use Kerry and one or two other. It's yeast that we refrigerate. So generally, distilleries use 3 types of yeast. It's all fairly similar. We don't use different yeasts like bourbon. We use pretty much a selection of a few yeasts mostly, and you'll either get it in liquid form, which you know, certain cream. Yeah, you'll either get it in sort of refrigerated form that you keep it in a refrigerator and you tip it in, or you get it in dried form, which needs to be activated. So actually, what you sometimes do is that you have to activate that by having your wort go in at a slightly higher temperature.
Okay. And we have a couple of questions here. Simon has questions. Can you control which fruit aromas you want through, you know, changes in your process or anything like that? Like specifically, if you want apple, I guess, not really. But
we've got a range that, you know, we've got a distinctive style that we want, and we sort of know the parameters that we need to do that. So
Simon 有人问说，你可不可以就是挑选说哪一些水果味？就是你可以去控制你的这个酒是可以比较 focus 在哪些水果味嘛？那其实你取酒心的这块步骤呢，其实你可以挑选说取比较前面，那前面会比较像水果花香等等这些东西，那取后面或许就是像说会比较重的一些的口味，像或许比较后面就是焦油啊等等啊烟熏啊等等的，但是其实好像其实没有办法真正的取，假如说苹果，我就是要苹果，或者我就是要香蕉等等，对，尤其是他们没有在玩酵母这个东西。那刚刚他在讨论说，他们其实就是用一些传统的酵母，没有说用很特别的酵母。My friend Chong Yu Chen, he said that he had the bourbon. Yeah, did you read that?
Yeah, I read it. Yeah, I'm a fan. Look, every.
So, let me read
this.
This for the audience here. He had, so our friend Mr. Chen here had a bourbon cask selected by SNWS from Glengoyne, and it was so fabulous, he says. And I wonder if it's possible to make an exclusive bourbon cask or something. You know, but I guess that's kind of out of the wheelhouse for, you know, Glengoyne, right? I mean, you know, any kind of special releases possibly, or maybe like a Taiwan Express exclusive again.
We've done Taiwan exclusives in the past, so you know it's not something new to us. Mm-hmm. Bourbon casks, I think we all appreciate how good Glengoyne is in bourbon casks, and because of exactly what we've just said, the fruity spirit manifests itself beautifully in a bourbon cask. You taste the hints of it in this 12-year-old and the cask strength that you'll drink. So you know we're not going to write anything off. We'll always look at things like that. I mean, we did a bourbon cask release for the German market 2 years ago. It was a 20-year-old bourbon cask. My gosh, It was sensational. And it was selected by the magazine, and they did a private tasting, 10 of them, and it won 10-0. Everybody picked it. So we know how good Glengoyne in bourbon is. So we'll see what we do in the future. But the sherry casks are always have been key to Glengoyne. We're certainly not going to abandon those. They're really fabulous.
那个Gordon说他之前在那个德国的这个市场上面有推出一个波本的单桶，然后是一个20年的波本单桶，然后他就说是非常完美的一支酒款，然后他们就说有可能我们有未来就是可以享受到一个格兰哥尼的这个波本桶。Yeah, and then so you can also see too, in terms of, you know, kind of like the color difference here, and you know, this one being some of that first fill bourbon cask in a 12-year, and here my, you know, cask strength, which, you know, seems like there's more heavy sherry influence here. And
I mean, I think the one thing you've got to remember there, it might make sense to go back to full screen just because we're quite small.
But
the one thing to remember there is, you know, one is at 43%, and we've added water. One is at 57.3. That could have a lot to do with the color difference, because effectively that 12-year-old cask strength that you're looking at is is effectively a cask strength version of 12. Yes, the 15 is a little bit darker, but that's mainly not because of 3 years more age, because we use a hint more sherry casks.
Yeah, yeah. 所以15年它就是多了那么一点点雪莉头，但是很可惜是挺惨的。Yeah, so on the 12 year here, you know, so we also want to mention that natural color, always, you know, I want to say, you guys do chill filtering at all, or is it?
We will on the 43, on a whiskey at 43%, we will.
43, yeah.
But not at our higher strength. So the Legacy series, no. Cask strengths, no. The Glengoyne 25, which is at 48, no. And that makes a big difference. You know, the reason I think the point is, if you do chill filter, you don't actually lose a lot of taste. There's no real taste difference.
Yeah.
One area arguably is mouthfeel, but Glengoyne's got so much of that anyway. You know, in the I mean, that 12-year-old is sensational. Really, quite thick and fruity and feels great in the mouth.
12年的其实真的就是比较有那样子的波本桶调。It's definitely that, you know, bourbon cask talking to you on the 12 year. And I have so many to go through. I have to start thinking faster, my friend. You know, so so I'm gonna just take a little sip of this 15-year-old. 这个15年，
I'm gonna say 2 words. You can tell me what you know, but I'm gonna say 2 words. Tropical fruits.
Tropical fruit, 热带水果. Yes.
Mango.
Yeah. Soft
pineapple.
Fruits. Soft
pineapple,
fruits.
Mango. Yeah.
Yep. And you're also getting some of that spice there too, you know.
No, definitely.
Spice, you know, baking spice there. Just slightly more, maybe that little fruitcake raisin kind of thing.
There's still sherry cask in it, so yeah, that's in the background for sure.
Yeah.
The other thing you notice when you drink a bourbon cask or a bourbon more influenced is, you know, you'll notice this when we taste about the 21. The sweetness in the 15 and the 12 hits you in the front half of the tongue. When you go to the 21 and the Legacy, it's all back here.
他说12年、15年，他就是在前，就是嘴前这边的 front 就会比较算是比较有个性一点。然后，但是像如果我们喝一些比较you said the Legacy, right? The Legacy and Cask, right? 他说这个 Legacy 呢，它这个酒的这个调型就是会比较在你的这个中后口中的中后，就是会表现比较
European oak sherry casks hit you further back in the palate.
欧洲橡木桶它就是在你的口中跟后端的部分比较有表现的比较明显一点。Yeah. 15 definitely a little spicier， 就是15年我觉得就是那个就是当然就是那个雪莉调，它是比较干果一些像一些香料，然后像一些 raisin，yeah raisin is there on the 15 raisin 葡萄干。Okay, so 12, 15, and what's the next one we should have here? Legacy.
I would try the probably the Legacy.
Legacy with you have Legacy here? You gonna join me on the Legacy?
Yeah, I would try the Legacy. Let me get the Legacy.
Legacy. Now Legacy is a limited release from year to year, right?
Yeah, it is. So that's Legacy Series Sorry, I was just getting my Legacy. That's Legacy Series Chapter 1 that you've got there. That's pretty much sold out globally, but that is the main difference between this whiskey and the last one. No age, but look at the color of it. That's not a young whiskey. 40% first fill European oak here. So you're going to get a very different experience you've tasted so far. You're going to get more of those raisins, dark chocolate, 48% non-chill filtered. This is a beautiful, beautiful whiskey.
Yeah.
And it proves that no age statement whiskeys can be really, really good. They're not bad.
Chapter 1, this is 第一版本2019年 and the Legacy, you know, again, is a salute to your, old master distiller.
Cochrane Cartwright, indeed.
Cochrane Cartwright. 那我们就是这次就是在纪念他们的这个 Cochrane Cartwright 先生，那我们当然就是要敬他一杯咯。 we're gonna have to make a little toast to our friend Mr. Cartwright here, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Do you have any toast that you like a little?
No, I think a simple Slangivar would be perfect. So you're going to get, I remember what I said to you about the palette here. It's going to be all further back now.
Yeah.
And really, that for the price, great whiskey.
Yeah. And in Taiwan, this is 2000 some NT, 2000多元，应该是2000多元的这个 NT. Yeah. So, people might get jealous because you can get whiskey for great deals here in Taiwan.
I know. I know you can.
Yeah. So you said this one is 40%. 48% ABV.
Yeah.
But then 40% European.
40% first fill European. So your initial nose is. Oh yeah. There it is. Those raisins, those dark chocolates, those hints of gentle spiciness, a little bit of that brown sugar, a little bit of that. All there on the nose.
Yeah.
So this is moving into a real demonstration of our sherry seasoned cask. Oloroso seasoned sherry cask, all sourced from Spain. Fantastic quality.
Oh yeah. So again, sorry, Slangivar, my friend.
Slangivar
to our friend Mr. Cochran.
Slangivar, Mr. Cochran. He unfortunately, I have to say, he unfortunately drowned in the water supply sort of pond at the back of the distillery. If you've ever been to the distillery, anybody who's been to the distillery, our friend from Tatsuya, I think will know what I'm talking about. But at the back of the distillery, we have a little pond, and he drowned in there, unfortunately, because he was a little bit liked a bit of the alcohol.
Oh man! Oh my gosh! 所以我们这支纪念版本的这个他们的 Cochrane Cartwright 先生，他其实是淹水而死，就是在酒厂的后面。Oh, okay, so do you guys have some kind of like thing in the back there, or?
No, but we just everybody always just remember Cochrane.
Yeah,
cheers, Cochrane. Cheers,
Cochrane. Cheers to Cochrane. 然后他刚刚说这款酒呢，这个 Legacy 它是40%的，就是40%的这个欧洲那个雪莉桶 European sherry cask, right?
European oak, Spanish oak predominantly, sherry casks. Oloroso, seasoned for 2.5 years with Oloroso sherry, manufactured in Spain, along with our American oak sherry casks, because they import American oak into Spain, goes through the same process. It's a 6-year process from a tree to a cask.
Yeah, 6年.
And they're about £1,100-1,200 each, so $1,500 which I don't know what that is in Taiwanese.
How many pounds?
About £1,000, so $1,300 US dollars.
USD, yeah. So it's probably like 40,000 or so, probably
each. As much they are to buy each.
Yeah, 一桶 yeah. 那他们的雪莉桶，他们雪莉桶就是像这一款呢，就是 40% 的这个欧洲橡木桶，然后呢是有就是成年雪莉的这个酒2年多，就是所以那个算是雪莉桶2年多的雪莉桶。Yeah, 2.5 years on the sherry cask, right? On the
2.5 years of seasoning. So the sherry is in there for 2.5 years. And that sherry is actually preparing the oak. Yes, an element of the sherry goes into the oak, but it's preparing the oak by taking out the tannins and a lot of the things that have been opened up in the oak through the toasting. The sherry is in there to actually extract some of those elements. Bourbon does the same for a bourbon cask. Bourbon takes out some of those real robust flavors that goes into a bourbon. We get more subtle interaction. And then you've seen in Scotland also now we use more and more virgin oak casks from America. Things that have never, a cask that normally would go to bourbon comes straight to Scotland. And it shows you that it's all about what the oak does to to the whiskey. It's so about the oak. Everybody thinks it's about bourbon or sherry. It's the oak. The oak is the most important aspect.
对啊，他说其实橡木桶的这个品质真的是最重，他觉得说是最重要的。然后而且尤其是就是这个处理这个橡木桶这个过程 ，you know, is it toasted？ 它是有烘吗？还是有烘烤吗？还是有炙烧？怎么样？Yeah. 然后他就说，现在其实最近也有一些美国新项目出来在苏格兰他们现在就是有来装酒。And did you say you were using some kind of virgin oak at Glengoyne? Not Glengoyne, you guys. Yeah.
No, nothing that we produce at the moment has that. But I'm pretty sure we've got some casks of some whiskey in there in a virgin oak cask or whatever, just to see how it works. We did a tasting on Friday night on the Glengoyne worldwide Facebook page, and we had Robbie Hughes, who's the distillery manager, and he was asked about experimentation. So he brought down from his office 4 or 5 samples, and he went, well, that wasn't good. That was rubbish, that one. That's not great either. It's just not good enough. That one nearly worked, but nah. And so we try a lot of things, but if it's not good enough, we won't do it.
Yeah. 所以他们其实我刚刚问他说他们有没有，因为他刚刚提到那个美国的新项目，然后我就想说，让他们会不会也去做这种使用，用这种处女桶去陈年酒，然后他们就说目前现在还没有，但是他们也是有做一些实验。但是他刚刚他们前几天也有直播，然后呢，就是他们的制酒师也是在做实验，但是他一些小样，他要去尝那些实验室的那些酒款，他们就说不是很好喝，所以他们就不会装瓶，所以就是坚持他们这个。Yeah, you guys are, saying that, you guys you're not going to use something that isn't fantastic.
No, and it's also, we don't really feel the need to finish our whiskies either. So we produce one whiskey which we finished. It's a travel retail whiskey called PX Cask. It's Glengoyne finished in Pedro Jimenez sherry, so it's a bourbon sherry mix finished in Pedro Jimenez. Fantastic combination. But all of our whiskies are fully matured. We're not moving from cask to cask. Our 25 is 25 years in sherry casks. Our 21 is 21 years in sherry casks. So it's fully matured all the way. So again, we don't, we're not putting them in, Amontillado finishes or Fino. Or we just mature and make it great, and it tastes wonderful the way it is. So.
所以他们像说他们就是21年呢，其实就是21年全部就是在雪莉桶陈年。I think we'll do this next, right? So
yeah.
The legacy. Oh, so the legacy here again. You said it is not only stated, but you said in terms of rough age of on average the spirit going in here is what?
I mean, I would think it's around about 10. I mean, it's somewhere in that area. But I mean, I think, if you look at Glengoyne works really well at younger than that, depending on how good the casks are. We can get really good whiskies at 6, 7, 8. You can get really good quality. So in there, a lot of first fill European, you'll be using somewhere around about the 10 mark. But it's all about the distinctive style. So Legacy Chapter 2, if that's Chapter 1, sorry, I'll do it that way. If that's Chapter 1, Chapter 2 will go in a different direction.
Okay. 所以它每一个款项就是 Chapter 1 跟 Chapter 2，它是会不一样的风味。So you guys are actually looking to do different stuff and not,
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think when you have a whiskey that has no age, but you bring in that strength, and we're a range, we've got a 10, a 12, an old 15, an 18, a 21, a 25. We actually want to produce something that is a little bit different, at higher strength, that takes you in a slightly different direction. That's why I love this Legacy series. It's a great range.
Very nice. Just my tasting notes on here. More of that sherry. The more of the spice, that European oak, that sherry talking to you. More raisin. It's just very,
very drinkable.
Yeah, very drinkable. Very sherry.
And a nice balance with the strength. I mean, it's a bit stronger, but you don't need to add water to it.
而且它的尾韵呢，算是也是中上。The finish is medium to medium long, and and I do get that kind of spice in the back.
It's quite a thick whiskey as well.
Yeah,
you do. You will do. You'll get that sort of almost that sort of gentle oak spiciness, that gentle tannins coming across the palate. It's beautiful whiskey, really good.
一些单宁啊，然后一些香气啊。Slight, I think, there's a pleasant minerality here too. I like, that tannin, that minerality here, 就是那种矿物香气，但是我觉得我也蛮喜欢的，就是那些单宁啊，然后它就是在后面真的是表现的尾韵跟后面算是表现的蛮不错的，对，48% alcohol, 48% alcohol. Very good. I wanted to drink another one, but I'm going to save that for later. That's very good. That is very good. Very excellent. And so next we're going to do RCE. We're going to do the 21 year. And I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back to this picture too. And show, because we were going looking at some pictures here at the distillery.
Oh yeah. No, mash tun.
Yep. Here's a mash tun here. That's classic. I love that hood. That hood is just...
Yeah, it's not big. I mean, it's 3.9 ton. It's not a big one. There's many distilleries have a much bigger one. But you can walk around Glengoyne Distillery in about 3 seconds. It's not a big distillery. So not a big mash tun.
Yeah. This is
traditional as well.
The mash tun. No, and then it looks like, it's almost like the cap is almost...
Yeah,
the original cap there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, there's look, it's if you look at
copper, and it's even copper.
If you zoom behind, I'm going to show if you can zoom in behind it. If you can zoom in, I'm going to show you a few things that make Glengoyne a little bit different. See all those dials and all those copper pipes and all these valves and things. And then if you move along to the right a little bit, there's a whole load of paper and. It's all done by hand. There is no computers. There is no.
Okay.
It's all about doing it by hand. So, it's and you see there's just there. If you just hold there and zoom in on that meter stick, see that? If you just zoom in a little bit, there you can see the stick with the weight showing you just there on the right, showing you the level of. Yeah, no digital things. It's all done by looking.
Wow. 所以他们这边其实他们都是用很传统的这些东西去量那些酒精啊，然后等等啊，他们不是用电脑的。So you guys don't use any kind of computerized system. You guys must use some kind of.
No, there is one computer that's used for the distillation element, but everything else is. We still have mashman, stillman. Warehouseman, maltman. So we have all those different people who are in charge of all the different things.
非常传统. Yeah, I mean, look at this. I mean, look at this dial. Where do you? How often do you see this thing? Huh? Look at this.
No, it's brilliant, isn't it? And it just shows you that we're very traditional.
Very traditional. Very traditional.
Even simple things that if you go off to the right, and go up a little bit. So keep going on to the right. Just go up here. That's the grist bin above there. The sort of white box. Now sometimes the grist gets a little bit stuck in there, so there's a brush that you hit it with.
Okay.
To make sure it comes out evenly. So there's lots of little things.
排谷物的，然后他们就是有时候会卡住，然后他们还要自己去，就是用手动的去把它那个谷物敲下去这样子的。对啊，那所以这个就是他们的 mash tun， 真是非常非常传统。And then so even having just this copper hood, on your mash tun, and copper piping, so much copper, 超级多 copper， 超级多铜对话。那所以就是真的是这样子，真的就是他们的这个酒厂的这个个性，就是。
It won't make a lot of difference there, the copper, to be honest, but. That's just the way it's been. So you get.
Yeah, I guess maybe that slight interaction that you get sometimes, right?
But so basically you're putting in 3.8, 3.9 tons of grist and 15,000 liters of water at 63.5 degrees C. That's what goes in there in the first mash,
yeah.
first water. So yeah, that's how it works.
Dan, okay, so just catching up some comments here. Dan Brown says, had the honor of meeting Gordon at last year's Taipei Wine and Spirits Festival.
Yes, I remember it. Yeah, I remember that.
You remember Dan? You remember Dan?
I was there. Yeah, I remember meeting Dan.
Great gentleman and very knowledgeable. And Simon says, will Glengoyne have more and more NAS in the future?
Only if it's good. There you go. Mm-hmm. Only if it's good. I mean, we will only make whiskey if it's good. If we can make really good NAS whiskey at the right price, that is the right taste profile, reflects our distillery correctly, then we will do it. We're not in the game. We don't have, the key thing about Glengoyne is we don't have masses of volume of Glengoyne. We're not, we don't have loads of casks kicking around that we would like to change into whiskey and try and sell at a cheap price to get rid of volume and make a bit of money. That's not what we're about. We're about making great whiskey. And so we have to maximize the value of every whiskey that we make. So we are very conscious that we will make the best quality whiskey we can. We will always stick true to our natural colors element. So we, that we would make an NAS and there'll be a legacy chapter 2 and there'll be a batch strength number 8. But, we might do something special for a particular reason, but we'll see. We're always looking at things. We could look at different maturations and try different things, but we'll see.
But yeah, so, your overall portfolio, though, there's I think, 2 expressions now, the legacy and your cask strength abroad, that's NAS. Really.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So you're not like, some other distilleries or other brands who are coming out with 10, 20, 30 different NAS expressions and additions and all this and whatnot, right?
No. I mean, ultimately, you can have all the story in the world and you can have but the whiskey in the bottle has to stand up. And I think, and if I'm honest, I think most NAS whiskeys are pretty good, but there are a few out there which I feel are really, not great. Young whiskeys, carameled, as well. And really give NAS a bad name. But there's also really bad 10-year-olds, 12-year-olds, 18-year-olds. So there's, it's just the same. But it's a lot. The thing about NAS is, and this is a key point, is people have been programmed to think of whiskey about age, and that's partly our fault as an industry 25 years ago. But the point is that great whiskey should be about taste than nothing else.
Yeah. So let me just catch up on the for the Mandarin speakers here. 那刚刚我们这个 Simon 有人问，就是说，那哥你他们会就是推出更多的这个无年份的产品。那个 Gordon 他的回答就是说，其实最重要就是说，他们要出的酒要有达到他们的这个quality 的这个标准。对，所以如果我没有达到他们的标准，他们就不会出。那如果这个类似像 legacy 它这样子他们觉得说这个东西是有达到他们想要的这个风格跟标准的这个品质的标准，那他们就会出。但是其实他们全部的款项里面，现在就只有 legacy 跟他们其实有一个那个原酒，它是无年份的。那他们大部分多数都是还是有标年份，10年、12年、18年、21年。You guys have 10, 12, no 15 anymore, 18, 21,
25, 30
and 30, 25年、30年。那所以其实他们年份这个东西对他们来说其实不是很特别重要，但是他们要就是确定说这个品质是好的。And then Dan says he preferred the Legacy Chapter 1 to the 21-year-old, actually. I don't know. I don't know if I agree with that.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty of whiskey. Everybody's different.
And Dan, somebody did ask about the barley. Dan says, are you guys still using Golden Promise?
No, we are not.
Okay.
We are not. Golden Promise is a bit of a, look, the 21-year-old that you buy now probably was made with Golden Promise, but certainly the 10, 12, 15s, 18s, probably not. Maybe the 18. But all barley varieties die out sort of after a while. They become obsolete, and there's another barley variety that comes in. So we're not using Golden Promise anymore. But the quality of the whiskey is still really, really high. Quality of the spirit is still really, really high. So we know that, barley is important, as is water and yeast and all those things. But that whole process is still driven towards delivering that style.
And is it so? What brand of barley do you guys use?
I'm actually just trying to remember. I think I spoke to Robbie about this the other day, and I can't quite remember what he said.
Okay.
But it will be. I mean, it'll be the similar barley to most distilleries are using. It's not going to be a variety that's off the wall. I actually can't quite remember which variety it is at the moment, but I can come back to Dan on that.
Yeah, I want to say most people use Concerto. Does anybody know the answer?
Yeah, Concerto is one of them. There's one or two others, and I just can't remember them. Concerto, I wouldn't be surprised we're using. There are one or two. I just can't remember the name. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Could well be Concerto. I'm sure it probably is.
And then 我们刚才讨论这个大麦，然后有朋友说他们是不是有在用这个 Golden Promise 大麦，然后他就说，因为他们现在他们其实没有在用 Golden Promise， 然后他刚刚也有点忘记说他们是用哪一款大麦，然后我刚刚说是不是用 Concerto， 那他说现在如果现在买，或许21年的他们那个还算是之前他们用的那个 Golden Promise， so, 21-year-old, you probably get that Golden Promise in there. But this year, speaking of 21-year-olds, this one is an old edition Glengoyne 21-year-old, and let's have a dram.
Yeah, I've got the new one here, so we can have a dram off.
Yep, dram off.
So there's a beautiful old picture of some casks being taken away, I think, from Glengoyne in the 1920s.
In a mighty steed. Look at that.
Yes.
The horse there.
Now the key point, of course, is the access to the market, and so Glengoyne wasn't far from Glasgow, so getting into the market was key for Glengoyne.
You say roughly when was this picture?
1920.
Okay, 1920年. Okay, just the start of Prohibition.
Yeah, exactly. I should have said last week, but no, it was 1920.
Yeah. And here's the distillery grounds.
Yeah, so if you can zoom in on that a little bit, it's a little bit of a, but that's so that behind there's a distillery. So Glengoyne really is the picturesque distillery. That's Dumgoyne, the hill behind, and you can climb up there and take a dram with you. And you see that picture is taken from the lowlands to the highlands. So that picture is taken by somebody standing in the lowlands, and the distillery is in the highlands.
所以这个它是 and then so probably behind this person is your
the warehouses,
yeah.
Whereas the picture behind you, you're standing right in the middle of the road. Your picture behind you, yeah.
Of the road, and
I think there's another cracking old picture which I said to you, which just shows a distillery layout which has not changed at all. I sent that to you on another picture, I think.
然后 let me explain the picture. 他拍照这个人的这个角度呢，他基本上面他站这边的话就是低地，然后他们这样子看酒厂的话，就是前面就是高地这样子，所以他就是刚刚说的高地跟低地很接近。This
that's a great picture. We'll come back to that one.
Okay.
If you just so this one that shows a really simple picture of you see the road here just above where it says Lang's Brothers. There's a road. That's the dividing line between the lowlands and the highlands. You can see the house there on the left hand side is now not there. That was the sort of the taxman's house. That's where he stayed, but nothing has changed. It's pretty much the same layout. So halfway up on the right, just before the warehouses at the back, you've got the distillery manager's house.
Okay, right here, this one here.
Yeah, and then just behind that now.
Is that still there?
That's still there. Yeah, you can visit that.
Distillery manager's living there?
No, it's his office these days. But yeah.
Just
behind that's the shop.
那个经理的这个房子就在这里。And what you're saying?
Yeah. And then just behind that is the shop, and at the top is the lake where our friend Cochran Cartwright came to an end.
Cheers. Cheers. Roger to Cochran. Cochran 就很不幸的掉到这个小湖里面，然后就走了。哎，真是。
Oh, that's good.
好心疼。
But the key thing is we have nowhere else to expand.
Yeah.
That is the same footprint as the distillery is today. So we are confined by our space. So we cannot suddenly make Glengoyne a 10 million litre distillery. Yeah. It's not. It is what it is. That's the key.
I see. I guess this would be a more like traditional Gaelic spelling of the distillery here. The Glen.
Yeah, I can't read that, but yes.
Okay.
Oh.
See that?
Yeah.
It's spelled G-U-I-N.
Glengoyne Distillery, yeah.
Glengoyne.
Absolutely. It became Glengoyne, meaning the Valley of the Wild Geese.
Valley of the Wild Geese 就是这个天鹅的这个 Valley， 天鹅的 Valley。那他们其实像说哥尼，他们像这个 your logo right? It has the geese， 这个就是。
It does indeed, yeah.
它算是天鹅吧，对不对？是不是天鹅 geese 天鹅嘛？应该是天 ，yeah.
Yep. Absolutely, that's what the name means.
Yeah, Valley of the Geese. Valley of the Geese. All right.
So yeah, and then that last picture that we were going to have a look at, it's a really good picture just to show.
Well, here's another picture of the traditional distillery.
Oh yeah, so that's taken from the 1930s. So that's again from the lowlands looking into the highlands. It looks pretty much exactly the same as it does there. The only thing that's missing is that house on the left is not there anymore.
Yeah. I imagine you guys probably expanded on your warehouses over these years, right?
We have a little bit, but we don't have loads of room to expand on warehouses.
Yeah.
You know, there's only a certain amount we can do.
Yeah.
This is a good picture to explain the maturation. I would love to talk through. You could zoom in a wee bit; it would be great.
This is what? This is the
This is the #1 warehouse.
Okay.
So what that shows, if everybody could see it, is it shows. If you look at a bourbon cask, so that's saying.
来看它这个陈年的过程。
That's typically saying that if you look at that, the bottle on the top, that bottle there,
it's new make, I guess.
New make, zero age. The one on the bottom right, 29 years old or 30 years old.
哦，这是29年，29年、30年，所以他们的新酒到9年，在这个美国这个橡木桶、波本桶，对 ，yeah.
So what that actually shows is that you can see most of the color comes in the first few years.
Yeah.
And the difference between a 20-year-old and a 30-year-old bourbon cask is very, very little in color.
Yeah.
So color comes early on. It also shows the angel's share. You see it decreasing every year. That shows you the amount that we're losing each year. And the final thing that it shows is the wood staves around the outside are all charred, so because they're bourbon casks.
Oh yeah, okay, I can see the window. 这个窗口这边其实都是他们这个橡木桶，都是现在有炙烧过的橡木桶，对不对？然后就是从新酒到30年这个过程跟天使分享，有没有？Okay. This is a great picture here, and then over here we have.
And then you go into an American oak sherry cask, and again, what I said about color, you see the difference between 20-year-old or where you're at. That's about where you've got your clickers, about a 15-year-old.
Yeah.
20-year-old and a 30-year-old, very minimal difference in color.
Yeah.
You can see the color comes again very early. And you see the angel's share. And the other thing that you see is that the wood is not charred, it's toasted. So it's toasted like a European. So 30 to 40 minutes toast at a much lower temperature compared to charring at a very high temperature for a minute.
3到4的这个烤桶 过程。然后这个是他们的雪莉美国橡木雪莉桶，对，然后它这个就是没有炙烧的，它算是烤桶30到40分钟。Do you guys season and dry your staves as well? You know, is that part of your cask? Regimen to air dry for X amount of years.
The staves are air dried for over 2 years.
Oh, okay.
They then go to the cooperage. They are made into either butts, puncheons, or hogsheads, depending on how long the staves are. Both American oak and European oak. They're toasted for 30 to 40 minutes, roughly. And then they go and get filled with sherry, Oloroso sherry, for 2.5 years.
Okay.Oloroso Sherry 呢，就是会去润桶2.5年，2年半，2.5 years。然后那个他刚刚说，okay, and you were saying,
look at the third picture compared to the second picture. Look at the difference in the color.
Okay.
European oak, Quercus robur, not Quercus alba, much looser. So that toasting opens up the oak. Much darker colors coming from European oak cherry.
Yeah.
Same process, same seasoning, same air drying.
欧洲橡木真的就差很多。Yeah.
And that's what we're tasting in this 21 is European oak.
Okay. 所以这个就是21年，就是他们的这个法国橡木。然后就是也是有烤过3到40分钟。那我刚刚有问他们，是说其实有一个步骤是就是要日晒嘛，就是日晒。那日晒的部分就是说这些新的项目先要经过日晒，然后这样子它就会其实这个雨水啊，然后日晒啊，就会取走一些我们说green notes， 就是比较新橡木那种感觉，然后也是会让单宁就是流掉一些，那就是也会让橡木桶算是变得比较好一点。那他们其实就是有日晒，大概两年半，算是还蛮久的。2.5 years, air dry, kind of, is a long time. It is a long time.
Yeah, it's about between 2 and 2.5. It is a long time, and it makes a real difference because you need the rain. You need the sun, you need the dryness. You've got to get it down from probably 40% moisture down to 10.
Yeah.
So before you even consider making casks from the woods. So
yeah. So and then some people don't know that because the air drying part. A lot of people because a lot of people get focused on the toasting and the charring and whatnot like that, but the air drying is also very critical.
Absolutely. If you were to kiln dry it and put it in an oven and dry it quickly, your wood would be very it just would not have the flavors in it. It would not have the compounds in it that you want in your whiskey. Yeah. So although it sounds silly to have wood lying out for 2 years, it's because it tastes better. And even simple things, that whole process goes from, it's a 6-year process. And then if I was to ask you, sorry?
It's just like making soup.
If I was then to say to you, right, we've now got 400 seasoned casks sitting at a cooperage in Spain, how are we going to get them to Scotland? If you were a finance person or you were a mathematician, you would go, well, we would put them into a 40-foot container by breaking them down, putting them on pallets. We don't even do that. We transport them whole because why would you go through all that process and then break the sort of integrity of the cask down? We transport them whole. So that's the kind of points that really make us different in terms of our casks.
Oh, wow. Really? Okay. So you said you're transporting the cask whole. Wow.
Yeah.
那另外一个很不一样的步骤就是说，他们这些橡木桶呢，其实他们都是直接from Spain mostly, right?
Yeah.
直接就是输运的部分是整个橡木桶输运过来。那比较便宜的做法就是当然就是把整个就是橡木桶，或者就是直接的，其实就是直接把橡木桶就是拆开来，然后呢就整个放在一个货柜里面，然后运过去，然后他们之后再组装。但是他们就是 直接把整个橡木桶这样子运输，所以其实这个也是他们的其中一个坚持。Yeah, that's actually very, again, you guys aren't making decisions based on cost, at the expense of, changing the way you make whiskey, right?
I mean it's not everything we do is focused on a couple of things.
Yeah,
it's focused on everything. We make whiskey through relationships. It's a really strong point. Our cask suppliers, we have great relationships. They understand what we want, so they don't try and produce something we don't want. We know what we want. They make it for us. So the relationship and the honesty gets to a point that if a cask arrives and it doesn't have the right aroma and it's smelling a bit funny, we'll get another one. That's the way it works. So so relationships is key. But yes, we spend money where we need to spend money, because ultimately what we want to do is produce great liquid in the bottle, great whiskey in the bottle. And that's the key point. So when people buy a Glengoyne and taste it for the first time, they go, wow, this is great. And it's and what I've been talking about for the last hour and a half, I think explains why it's great and why Glengoyne is it's not best. It's different to other whiskies. It's just got a different style to it.
I want to say just very respectful of the process, very respectful of the tradition and process.
Yeah, no,
就很尊敬传统的做法，很坚持他们制酒的方式，真的是。
I mean, a prime example is I remember speaking to a friend of mine who works at a big distillery, and it produces a lot of single malt for blends.
Yeah.
And so if you're producing single malt for blends, you're not the way that you make your single malt may be a little bit different, because it's ultimately going into a blend. And one of the things that he said is, I'm always told by
sneak another one. I can't have enough of this.
I'm always told by the guys who set the targets and set the production rates, crank the stills on, get the heat up, get the spirit through the stills as quickly as you can. And so that's what we don't do. That is what we don't do. Look at the color, isn't it beautiful?
Yeah, isn't that beautiful? It's just this amber. And it's just so there's a lot of viscosity there. If you look at the legs I don't know if you can see the legs, but the legs on the glass is, also very beautiful. A lot of just, viscosity here.
Yeah. It's a beautiful whiskey.
And I was going to say, it's just, cherry bomb, this is like full on cherry right now. So 就是21年，就是完全成年在雪莉桶里面 ，21 years full maturation in sherry cask, not finished or anything like that. 21 years fully. So are these mostly hogsheads or butts or a combination?
Probably a combination. Probably butts and hogsheads mainly. But I mean, again, there's a really big point. Butts are twice the size of hogsheads, very different shape. So 21 years in a butt is very different to 21 years in a hogshead.
Oh yeah. 所以他们的酒桶就是猪头桶，然后那个雪莉 butt 桶。And yeah, you guys do have your traditional bourbon casks, right? Any other big you guys? So besides bourbon, barrels, hogshead, butts, do you guys use any other casks like? Smaller casks or bigger casks?
Yeah, we've got some Glengoyne in port pipes.
Okay. Ooh.
I think we have. I think we may have. So port pipes are the biggest. So generally most distilleries are using port pipes if they use any port pipes, butts, then puncheons.
Yeah.
Generally, then to hogsheads, then to bourbon barrels. That's pretty much the 5 cask sizes that most people be using. French wine casks as well.
Yeah, what's going on with that? Glengoyne port cask. What's going on with that?
I don't know. I may have got that wrong, but I'm sure there's probably some Glengoyne sitting in some port pipes somewhere.
Oh my gosh, that would be amazing. 波特桶的那个歌泥，哇，听起来就很赞。Again, this very sherry, very viscous. on the nose, again, you're getting that dry fruit, that sherry. I get that kind of soft fruit. Very easy on the entry, more expressive on the back.
Yeah.
Right. 所以就是入口的时候，它算是非常的柔顺，然后呢，它是尾韵跟你的这个口中的后端部分，就是会慢慢的就是这样子散开来，然后就是很温深的感觉，然后那个雪莉就是真正的很香很甜美，真的是非常的优秀，非常好。Excellent, you saw me pour a second one of these. Very good, very great one. And we're going to finish off soon, but I wanted to crack into this 12-year cask strength here. I guess it's a Taiwan exclusive.
Taiwan exclusive, released in 2018.
Yeah.
And it's very simply a cask strength version of Standard 12. So it's going to have first fill bourbon. It's going to have sherry casks. It's going to have refill casks. 57.3.
57.3. Look at that. Yeah. 台湾限定版，18年出，然后这个其实比较难找到，so it is a little rare, So if any of you guys are watching this and you're here in Taiwan, I might be able to tell you where to get some.
Can you get me one?
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm sure you get it yourself here.
Well, I need to get there, unfortunately. Yeah, we'll hopefully do that. But what I love about this whiskey, because I do remember tasting it, is it's got a really sort of maltiness, but it's also got sort of oranginess and raisins from those sherry casks. There's still bourbon casks in there as well. So it reminds me of our cask strength series without the age. There's a lot of orange influence in those as well. Orange seems to come through a little bit.
57.3真的就是真的是比较强烈一点，比较浓。It's very, very strong and expressive, and got a lot of flavor. It's like right on the entry there. 57.3.
Glengoyne cask strength whiskies, whether they're no age or 12, they all have, when you taste them, they don't feel over. There's lots of intensity from the casks and flavor. But you're never ultimately reaching for the water immediately. You're not like, oh, okay. Yeah, big difference.
Yeah, big difference. Yeah, and again, it's that bourbon, expressive bourbon note there, just talking to you.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And the finish is really.
Try a drop of water in it, definitely.
Oh no!
Oh no!
Oh, if I have a cork break here, oh no!
No.
Oh, I think it's gonna break because this is older. So this is an older Glengoyne 12-year cask strength. This is probably from like 5-6 years ago.
100 degrees proof, so it's 57.2.
Yeah.
There's 100 degrees proof, which is a very old measurement of alcohol in the UK.
I know. So this is.
It's all classic. About gunpowder. So that I can't remember. I don't know where that was from. I'm not 100% sure if that's a Taiwan exclusive.
It's a Taiwan, yeah. I think this is Taiwan. This was I got this in Taiwan.
Okay. Is it 700? Is it 700 mils or 750?
Yeah, 700.
Okay. So because there was one that was in. Okay.
Oh no. Okay. Yeah. So I can't save it.
Oh no. Save it.
Oh well. Okay. Well, I'll have to drink that offline. 可恶，断塞。哎，真是老酒没办法。I wish So if I had the time, I would get the toothpicks.
Yeah.
牙签 and start doing that again. Getting the cork out. But again, just the cask strength is lovely, and I do have to say, 12-year cask strength, I think, is a superior whiskey than the NAS cask strength. I have to say that, yeah. It is also more expensive too.
Yeah, it is more expensive. Yeah. It is probably a little bit older as well. It was a very limited run, but the standard cask strengths are great. They've all been a little bit different. And again, very similar, very similar.
他们就是常态款的那个原酒很好喝，但是12年这个真的还蛮不错，真的是真的很厉害。那他们的12年呢，就是他们的主要的调就是那个有雪莉，但是有那个他们的那个初次的使用的波本桶。Okay.
So that's batch number 7.
Okay, so yes. So this is so you're obviously the batch is very from batch to batch because in terms of ABV, right? So this cask strength is it again primarily bourbon cask? 这个还是主要是
it's actually only 5% bourbon cask. It's not got a lot of bourbon cask in it at all. It's got a lot of sherry cask. Actually, this is batch 7. Batch 6 was all sherry casks, refill sherry and first fill sherry. But this has only got a little hint of bourbon casks in it. But it's got a fair amount of refill, of course, as well. But it's a beautiful. This is such a great whiskey. All of them are great, and I've just tasted the new. We're going to have batch number 8 as well. It's amazing as well. So the cask strength series is great whiskey.
Yeah, you get a wide range. But then 第6批次他说全部都是雪莉 so Taiwanese market loves their sherry.
I know.
Loves their sherry.
I know.
So batch 6 is probably people's favorite. So I wonder if people can still find it here. 第6批次是全部都雪莉，就是100%雪莉桶。But then this one you said this 12-year is like the normal 12-year has that 20% first fill bourbon.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
I remember when it came out, and I spoke to John, and he says it's cask strength 12-year-old. That's what it is. I'm like, okay, so there you go. So it's got a lot of the same. It's exactly the same cask makeup, pretty much as the standard 12.
Okay.
But a limited edition for Taiwan, which I think sold out in about 3 days or 4 days or something.
Yeah, and
as it tends to do in that wonderful part of the world. And just having a look at the chat, and I just want to answer this because Dan Brown said, does Gordon have any clear plans for returning to Taiwan? I flipping hope so, because I love Taiwan and I want to be back as soon as possible for a whole load of reasons, a whole load of whiskey reasons, and a whole load of I've got different things we can do in Taiwan. I've got a whole load of, and having lived there, I love Taiwan, and I'm the biggest fan in the world of Schollenbei. So I need some more of them.
Din Tai Fung.
Din Tai Fung. Well, yeah, but you can find a local place that's better.
Okay. You like the
Din Tai Fung, yeah, nice.
Yeah. 所以刚刚有人问，就是说这个 Gordon 什么时候要回台湾，就是来看我们。他说他真的是很想，因为他超爱台湾的，因为他之前住在这边。So this is a question that our friend Simon asked. Back at this picture, he says, it seems as though the Angel's share in the European oak casks, it looks like it's higher, or is that just a trick of the eye or something? I don't know.
I don't think there's a huge difference, but it probably is a little bit, and it was very, very properly. This isn't just done; it was worked out very properly in terms of color, worked out very properly in terms of Angel's share. Yeah, I mean, generally European oak is not as tight as American oak.
Yeah.
So you will lose a little bit more out of European oak casks, and you can see there the difference. Quite a lot more by the time you get to 30 years old. The bourbon's probably got the most of them all. So yeah, I mean, there's a whole range. Every cask is different, but you probably do lose a little bit more out of European oak. But there's no exact science to this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Simon 刚刚有人问说，他说这个法国的没有，这说欧洲项目感觉好像那个天使分享，天使税比较高一点，因为它看起来好像是 最后30年后应该是看起来比较少一点。然后那过人就说有可能，其实每个橡木桶都不一样了，那也很难准确的说，但是他说应该是说欧洲橡木会流失多一点点，然后那美国橡木呢或许会比较 tight 比较紧一点，然后或许流失比较少，那是他的想法，但是我不知道有没有专家可以来跟我们更详细的解释，到时候或许我在研究。So is that you know the European oak and the American oak being more watertight and everything, is that it? You know, I wonder if has there been like research done on that, or I wonder if it's
Quercus alba is a tighter oak. It's a great oak for making casks. European oak, not so good. And I remember when I was in Japan as well, Japanese oak, which Mizunara, which has been used very sparingly as well, is terrible for making casks. So you get a lot of leakage, you get a lot of out of that oak. So but American oak is probably the best because it's the tightest, and that's of course when you toast that tight oak, you don't open it as much as you do with the European oak, so you don't get the same colors and flavors. We know American oak has a lot of vanillin in it. European oak, Spanish oak has a lot of tannin, which is why you get these real differences between American oak and European oak. And just by means of, I'm just going to show you an example. I've got here the Glengoyne teapot dram.
Oh my gosh. Teapot dram, that is amazing.
So that's the teapot dram. That is all European oak, and that is beautiful color. That's about, I need to get the other whiskey out my cupboard to show you what I'm going to talk about. But that's about probably about an average age this year of older than we've had before. Just give me 1 second. Let me just get the other whiskey out. Sorry. So then I wanted to show you this because this is a 17-year-old. This is Duncan, who you saw in the picture earlier. He selected this cask. And this is an American oak sherry cask at 17 years old. Okay? So look at the color of that. And then look at the color of the younger teapot.
Oh, wow.
And you see the difference between American and European oak.
So it really kind of soaks in one I think, soaks more in, I guess you could say, right?
Yeah, 17 years old. Probably, this has got this old, but probably 12 on an average age. It's got 14-year-old, but it's got younger stuff in it.
所以他刚刚说美国项目跟欧洲项目其实它就是的确是
So you can see the difference between the two, and that's what that image that you saw that from the distillery shows you. That shows you that American oak is very different to European.
Yeah. All right. Well, so we're gonna finish off. We're running a little bit later than normal, but I also wanted to. We also have some little giveaways today.
Little is the word.
Let me see if I can find the picture now. And we have to actually thank the local distributor. 我们也是非常感谢这个台中这边的代理商，格兰哥尼的代理商。然后他们这边呢，已经有赞助一些小礼物。Okay, and let me see if I can pull up. Let's see if I can pull it up. Okay, there you go. Ta-da!
Oh, ta-da!
So we got Glengoyne. These are luggage straps. 格兰哥尼的这个那个算是那个行李箱带。那我今天有3个，然后呢，那这个是针对我们台湾市场的朋友们，所以台湾市场朋友们有还在听吗？ Do we still have any? So these Glengoyne luggage straps we're gonna give out. It's gonna be 3.
I have one. They're actually very useful.
Yeah, well, absolutely. If you travel, I have 3 of them, and then we're gonna ask some questions. And or actually, Gordon, do you want to ask the questions? Do you want to do the honors and ask 3 questions, and whoever responds, kind of the fastest here.
Okay. Question number 1. What does Glengoyne, what does the name mean?
Okay, question number 1. What does Glengoyne mean? 就是格兰哥尼的名字的这个意义是什么？这个命名的这个意思是什么？有人能回答吗？格兰哥尼这个名词的这个maybe the Taiwan audience went to sleep already.
What time is it there now? 11:20?
It's 11, yeah, it's 11 o'clock. Anybody? Huh?
Well, maybe the luggage straps haven't caused the massive excitement.
Okay, Dan Brown.
There we go, Dan Brown. There we go, Dan. Well done. Dan might be the only person that's up.
Dan, you're gonna get a luggage strap, and you get a luggage strap, sir. Okay.
And the next, and also because you got the first answer right, the next time I'm in town, I'll catch up with him for a drink.
Okay. All right.
We can talk oak.
那我们台湾的这个观众在哪里啊？他怎么都没有？Dan 他在台北。Dan you're Taipei. Dan's Taipei. Okay. 好。Okay. So what's the second question? 这是针对台湾市场的朋友们哦，赶快回答哦。
How long does it take to make one of our casks?
How long does it take? Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
Approximately. I did tell people.
Okay. 他说那个大概要多久的时间才能够制出一个他们的橡木桶 ？How many years does it take? Does anybody know? For the second Glengoyne luggage strap.
Woo! That's exciting. Dan's going to win it again, probably.
Well, Tatsuya says 2 years.
No, Tatsuya, it's actually 5.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
I've just given it 5 or 6.
5 to 6 years, yeah. Because we have to take into consideration, you're talking about the air drying part, right?
Yeah, so it's from a tree being cut down to a cask arriving, it's about 2 years air drying, 2.5 years seasoning, a little bit of time in between, 5 to 6 years.
Yeah. 所以要包含就是他们的日晒两年多，跟他们的润桶过程这个雪莉要2年多，那再加上运输啊什么什么，大概5到6年，5到6年。OK。
There's a huge excitement for the luggage straps.
Well, everybody answered wrong until Dan already won. Chen Heng O said 5 years, but I don't know if you heard. 小欧，你是听到我说你才说5年吗？还是你知道5年？I was like, are you responding 5 years just because, after hearing us? I asked him because he said 5 years. I was like, did you just say 5 years after hearing us say 5 years?
Yeah, I think you did. Yeah.
Did you actually? Do you want to go another one, or do you want to just?
Why don't we just give it to whoever's answered, because I hope they've all enjoyed it. Let's give one to Harry and maybe Tatsuya, who's the fan in Japan. If we can get one to him, I don't want to cause too much trouble, but that'd be fair.
Because I have the luggage strap, I have to mail them out.
So, I know, that's what I was thinking. Maybe Japan's not the place to do it.
Yeah, I can't do that. But Harry and Chongyu said 2.5. We have a third question. You want to go over a third question?
Okay, we could go with the third question. Final question.
Okay, so Harry, 你又赢了，好像 so Harry won again, I think, right?
Okay.
Harry, Harry is actually a vivid listener. He's won 3 prizes already on my interviews and stuff like that.
Has he?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So should I go with the third question?
Yeah, third question. 第3个大家准备好。Third question. 大家准备好。
Third question is, how many liters of pure alcohol can Glengoyne produce a year?
OK， 那他们的产量是多少？一年的产量，酒厂一年产量是多少？请回答。一年产量是多少？请回答。赶快。但是 Harry 你已经赢了，还有谁？啊，他说他 yeah. Harry, I think answered the right question. Answered it again. Because there's usually like a 10 or a 15-second delay between when we.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Sean Yang says 1.2 million, which I think which really is the real answer.
It's the closest to the answer.
Yeah. Sean.
It's about 1 million. It's about 1.1 million. 1.1.
Yeah, 1.1, 1.2 million, right?
Sean, well done.
Yeah, Sean, well done. 很好 Sean, 我们感觉好像是要你其实这个是最准确的回答。Okay.
I only remember 5 liters per minute. Well remembered. Fantastic. You can take that beautiful picture of that luggage strap down there if you want.
Okay, Sean Yang. 所以恭喜 Dan Brown, congratulations Dan Brown. 恭喜Harry Tsai. Wins every time, Harry. And Sean Yang. Okay, Sean 你在台中吗？还是你在哪里？ I wonder if he's in 台中, so we can come pick it up.
That would be good.
Yeah. All right. Okay.
Excellent.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. Gordon, do you have any closing remarks?
No. Look, thank you for your efforts, sir. It was great to meet you finally in Philadelphia in November, and it's great to continue that on today. And thank you for inviting me. Thank you for asking me. I will next time I see you buy a really big dram for you.
Thank you.
And it's been a pleasure.
Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
It's great to be back in Taiwan virtually. I hope to be back on the ground in the coming months, but we'll see how things develop.
Yeah, and we also have several people from Philadelphia and Pennsylvania on too.
Hello, Team Philly. It was good to be in Philadelphia. My first trip to Philadelphia last year in November. It seems a long time ago, but that was November.
Yeah, that was your last tasting of the year.
It was actually. Was it? It was. I think it was. It was very late November.
That's what he says. Like this.
I think it was.
It was December. It was December. Yeah, he was like, "This is
my last tasting of the year." I remember that. Yeah, I'd been in Taiwan the week before. I think it was a long trip that year.
Yeah,
that was my last tasting of the year.
那大家就说谢谢各位观众，然后呢，非常感谢大家就是来参与我们今天的直播。And Gordon will be back in Taiwan. We'll see him again, and hopefully, I'm sure we'll see Gordon in the United States and Taiwan, everywhere. And
I hope so. Everybody stay safe.
Yeah. And so I was supposed to be at the distillery.
You were.
Yeah, I guess it would have been earlier this month.
Yes, that's right.
It would have been earlier this month. Yeah.
我
本来要过去的，但是5月初的时候本来要过去都已经安排好了，然后就没办法，但是Oh well.
No,
Stay lucky, they say.
We'll invite you we'll get you back to the distillery when you're coming over, and we'll show you a good time. But no, I hope it's been really, really interesting. Good to chat to you and all your friends as well. Great.
Yeah, again, thank you, Gordon. Slanja, again to Slanja to you and Slanja. Awesome whiskey. Awesome talk. Tatsuya says, again, thank you so much today. I fell in love with Glengoyne even more.
Oh, good. Fantastic. Well, tell him if I'm in Japan, I'll catch up with him as well. So
yeah, Tatsuya, yeah. Where in Japan are you, Tatsuya? I wonder.
He's not on the stream I'm looking at, is he?
Well, I don't know. It should everything be on here. It should all be in. Yeah. Okay. Well, Tatsuya, he'll catch up with you. We'll catch up with you guys next time as well. Thank you, Belinda. Thank you, Tommy. Thank you, Milton. Thank you, Dan, Harry. In Tokyo, he's in Tokyo.
Okay.
There's usually like a 10 to 15 second delay on the broadcast. So.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. No, that's great. Thank you, Alex. Thank you.
All right. Well, have
really
a great
evening.
Thanks again. Great talk. Thanks for everything. And we'll see you guys next time. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye. Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye. Bye.